And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it's wonderful to be back. Yesterday we were in Sydney. We'll bring to you some glimpses of that, but it's wonderful to have your company on the last day of the winter today. So 31st of August, the last official day of winter, even though it is still slightly cold, 17 degrees and cloudy today. In Brisbane, it's going to get up to 24, or that's what they reckon. We'll see whether we get up to there or not. Well, right now, let's get into the news for today, and then we have the Daily India report, and we'll see if we can get a hold of some of the functions and events as well.
I think when a loved one goes missing, people want to know what happened, and especially the family. We want to know what happened to her. It's been a really long ride to get to this point, and to finally think that we may have an outcome is really nerve-wracking.
The mystery of what happened to Lynette Dawson in the summer of 1982 has captivated people around the world. But for Lynn's family, today was yet another step in their search for justice.
To think that Lynn's story was actually able to be heard before the courts was a massive milestone, and we're incredibly grateful that it got that far.
Renee Sims, Lynn's niece, has been at court almost every day for the highly publicised murder trial. 2 coronial inquests, protracted police investigations and an explosive podcast series have led to this moment.
Really apprehensive, quite nervous, but ready to finally get answers.
In a packed courtroom, Justice Harrison read his judgment for more than 5 hours, ultimately finding Chris Dawson guilty of murdering his wife, Lynette.
Christopher Michael Dawson on the charge that on or about 8 January 1982 at Bayview or elsewhere in the state of New South Wales, you did murder Lynette Dawson. I find you guilty.
This verdict is for Lynn. Today her name has been cleared. She loved her family and never left them of her own accord. Instead, her trust was betrayed by a man she loved.
Lynette Dawson vanished from her Northern Beaches home in 1982. She left behind 2 young children and a husband, local high school PE teacher Chris Dawson. According to Chris Dawson, she phoned him at the Northbridge Baths on Saturday the 9th of January to let him know she needed a few days away. Justice Harrison was satisfied that was a lie and that none of the reported sightings of Lynette Dawson relied upon by the defence were genuine.
The whole of the circumstantial evidence satisfies me that Lynette Dawson is dead, that she died on or about 8 January 1982, and that she did not voluntarily abandon her home.
The trial heard evidence from more than 50 witnesses, including Lynn's relatives, retired detectives and former Bayview neighbours. Chris Dawson did not give evidence at his trial, but the court heard excerpts from phone taps and from a police interview with him in 1991.
I've always been very anxious to discover where we went to and to conclude. And like everybody else, I'm mystified why he hasn't made contact.
Dawson, very close. Chris Dawson, very close.
It was alleged the former Newtown Jets footballer was motivated to kill Lynn in order to have an unfettered relationship with his then teenage student JC, who was also the family's babysitter. The judge did find Dawson was obsessed with JC, had a deep animosity towards Lynette, and didn't want the complications of a divorce. Even before police charged Dawson, there had been a decades-long search for answers.
DNA testing of a cardigan dug up at the family home failed to yield any results.
2 coronial inquests recommended a known person be charged with Lynn's murder.
We lived in such hope after each coronial inquiry because the findings were so positive, but each time we've just been sort of shattered.
A new investigation into the cold case was established and detectives requested the DPP review their evidence. The following month, the Australian newspaper launched a podcast into Lynn's disappearance that became a massive hit with millions of downloads. The Bayview property was excavated, and although no body was found, Chris Dawson was arrested in December 2018 and charged with Lynette's murder. He's always maintained his innocence.
That's a case where the prosecution has to establish from the very beginning that the inescapable conclusion of all the circumstances they have is that he killed her. Not easy.
There was no jury. The evidence was heard by a judge alone. As Justice Harrison handed down his verdict, there were cheers and applause from supporters of Lynette Dawson in an overflow courtroom. There's been intense public interest in this case, with Chris Dawson's legal team already flagging the potential for an appeal.
You rude, arrogant bastard!
Chris Dawson's family members were visibly shaken by the verdict, while relatives of Lynette Dawson appealed directly to the 74-year-old for information about Lynn's whereabouts.
This is a milestone in our journey of advocating for Lynn. However, the journey is not complete. She is still missing. We still need to bring her home. We would ask Chris Dawson to find it in himself to finally do the decent thing and allow us to bring Lynn home to a peaceful rest, finally showing her some dignity she deserves.
The thing I think that matters the most is that Lynn's story, as we know it, has been justified by a judge. It's justification for what we've always believed has happened. There were almost tears, I think a lot of disbelief. We have no idea where she is, so...
I reckon that the arms of justice is long and it might take time, but also justice must be delivered. Even though it has taken a long time, it is finally a homecoming. Well, right now there's a class action that is resolved to 50 million compensation expected. We'll see from this report.
Stolen generations survivors celebrating a win for those who've passed away. Bittersweet and a long time coming.
Today is just such an emotional day. I just can't explain the feeling that I got through my body. It was so exhilarating.
Eileen Cummings was taken from her mother when she was 4.
I think eventually it broke her heart because she couldn't understand what the government was doing and why they'd done it.
She's been the lead claimant in a class action that began before a federal compensation scheme was set up for survivors like herself. She kept fighting for those who have died, their relatives and carers.
And I felt, I'm not going to give up fighting. I'm going to keep on fighting with the Commonwealth to make sure they get something out of it.
Although the settlement still needs formal court approval, the Commonwealth has agreed to pay more than $50 million to be split between an expected 1,700 deceased estates, family members and carers.
People have been grossly and dreadfully affected by their relatives, their brothers, their sisters, children that they cared for being taken from them.
For these sisters, it's some recognition of the pain their late father endured when he was taken as a boy, something he rarely spoke about.
And it was even hard for me as a mother to explain that to my kids, and they'd say, but why, Mum, why? And I said, I really can't explain it.
For Eileen Cummings, it's a chapter closing, but...
I don't think I can stop now. I think I still have to go ahead because of our children.
She won't be retiring just yet. Felicity James, ABC.
And not just yet, because yes, there's lots to be done, and so many stories like that have emerged over time. And if you look at once again, it's been a long time coming, but it is once again a move in the right direction. Well, right now we go to Tasmania, where the culling of a lot of native animals is a growing concern.
This eastern rosella has a fractured wing. He's probably going to be in care with us for at least 4 weeks, I would think.
So you can see with each animal the amount of work that goes into just one individual.
Bonorong is Tasmania's biggest wildlife rescue service. The sanctuary spends about $1.5 million a year rehabilitating native wildlife.
This is Winnie. She's a gorgeous little wombat. This one, her mum was hit by a car, unfortunately. But it's a very long process with wombats. You're looking at sort of 2 to 2.5 years of age before they can go back to the wild.
But many of the protected birds and animals being cared for at Bonorong are being killed in their thousands elsewhere in Tasmania under property protection permits.
It's just like a slap to the face. You know, we've got on one hand decisions being made and people being supported, permits being given to rehabilitate these species and thousands of dollars being spent, and then that same area is giving out permits to shoot the same species. I mean, does that not sort of seem a bit ridiculous?
Property protection permits allow owners to poison, trap or shoot wildlife to prevent them destroying crops and equipment or infrastructure. Official figures show millions of native animals were killed under the permits in the 3.5 years to June, including wombats, black swans, cockatoos, kangaroos, possums, paddymmelons and wallabies.
It's a remarkable tally when you look at the numbers of birds, numbers of mammals involved, and it just beggars the question, you know, how much of this really is necessary?
Farmers don't like killing these animals. They would much prefer not to, but at the same time, they're losing up to 20% of their grazing, you know, land.
Tasmanian Farmers and Graziers Association President Ian Saw says property protection permits are a necessary last resort for many producers.
We've had farmers who have come to us and they've put in a grain crop, say a wheat crop, and instead of getting 10 tonnes per hectare, they're getting between 5 to 6 tonnes per hectare. So that means that the profit of that crop has gone. If we're not growing it and it comes from overseas, you'll be paying more.
Tasmania's Environment Department says it explores other options with people who apply for permits, and since mid-2019 it's inspected almost 200 properties to see if permits are necessary and rejected 50 applications.
So they're not given out willy-nilly, I can assure you.
Critics point out the department is responsible for the protection of local wildlife, even as it issues permits for thousands to be killed.
So you've got the one agency doing the counting, doing the analysis, doing the reporting and issuing the permits. And we really do need a degree of independent scrutiny of some of this information to get a proper sense of whether these populations can withstand this level of harvesting, be it bird or mammal. We need far more detailed analyses to be undertaken.
In a statement, the Tasmanian Minister for Primary Industries, Joe Palmer, says independent reviews have found the department's monitoring program methodologies are appropriate, and she's confident wildlife is being sustainably managed.
We used to get concerned about, the possums coming in at the night and the paddy melons and the wallabies coming in and so on, and losing sleep over it and wandering around the vineyard at night with torches. Come.
Paul Williams owns a winery near Hobart with plenty of bush and native animals nearby.
We were never going to go down the road of actually removing them because this was their home and we were the people who'd moved in.
So what kind of fencing have you got set up here?
It's a fairly basic farming fence. Wire netting here to keep out the paddy melons and the wallabies. The wire netting will extend on the ground on the other side, and that will stop wombats from digging underneath. And then finally, there is a wire along here which can be electrified.
He's also previously used netting, and he mows the grass near the bush, encouraging wildlife to graze there rather than on his grapes.
The whole crop protection thing, we believe, is totally unnecessary.
You normally get around this area.
Bennett's wallaby.
The Farmers and Graziers Association says while it's a large part of the solution, even good fencing has weak points.
Even though you've got a fence that's worth $20,000 a kilometre, they'll still get their way through. We have to be able to control these animals the best way possible, otherwise we just don't have any food, we don't have any fibre.
It's this war with wildlife all the time. It's always us versus them instead of learning to live alongside them and finding more sustainable long-term ways. And at some point we have to say enough's enough.
And finding long-term sustainable ways, it's going to be challenging because, as you've seen, both parts of the equation. Well, right now, let's move on and go to the Straight Talk Summit to magnify the voices of the First Nations women.
Montana is back in the...
Saturday mornings are always chaotic for Noongar mum of 6, Michelle Ninyet.
So I've got 4 daughters. They play netball on Saturday. I run on caffeine and I make sure my children's needs are met. That's my fuel, is being a role model for them and giving them the best opportunity and the best start to life that I think I can. I'll drop you off on the way back, or you might have to catch the train.
For Michelle, that means a good education, something that was denied to her mother. She was expelled from school at 14 after retaliating when a fellow student called her the N-word.
So she didn't have the opportunity to have an education, you know, and be the best. And she's a bright woman. She's tough.
Michelle was determined to ensure her children had the chance to reach their full potential.
My son was the first in my family to graduate year 12. My 4 daughters are all in high school and one's about to graduate year 12. She's the reconciliation captain from one of the most prestigious schools in WA. I'm not saying education is easy, it's going to be tough. And I just tell them, well, if you think this is tough, if you don't get educated.
Well, education will be tough, but it is something that we really need to focus on. Make sure that all the children, all the kids get the education that they need and that they are then fair and square with everyone. So, you know, on the same playing field as they reckon. Well, right now, before we go to our daily India report, artificial intelligence, robots, robotic, and things being done remotely, all this technology that's evolving, is it going to replace us? What is going to happen with the automation?
For years, technology and robots have been taking over factories, mining sites and warehouses. Automated services have replaced humans in supermarkets, banks and airports. And you might not know it, machines are also invading the office. Take translators, they're increasingly using voice recognition software.
You pop something into Google Translate 10 years ago and it was shocking, it was absolutely appalling. But you pop something in now and you can trust it for the most part.
And that is drastically changing their jobs.
I think a lot of translators will become proofreaders or checkers as opposed to translators, but they can't necessarily earn as much money from proofreading as they could have with translation.
Data supplied to the ABC shows the jobs most at risk from automation in the next 5 years. Many are office-based, and it's women who will be disproportionately affected.
Females are more likely to be negatively impacted by technology than males. Jobs that are most at risk of being automated by technology are the things that are routine driven. So if you're working in spreadsheets, if you are doing the same sort of analysis over and over again.
A survey has found that 1 in 2 workers feel they aren't being trained for digital advances.
It's about reskilling. It's about identifying the people who are at risk and reskilling them into roles that are less at risk.
Some professionals think that AI is making their lives easier. Insolvency expert Shabnam Anababy now spends less time crunching numbers and filling out paperwork.
That additional time allows me to then explore options for the clients as to whether there's an opportunity to save their business or to investigate suspect transactions.
All sorts of jobs are being taken over by machines. Even my job as a reporter is under threat from digital renders.
Like me, that can be passed off as humans. I don't take sick days or need overtime or time in lieu, but I could get a virus.
As machines learn to copyright, software engineer Vaibhav Namburi has cut the number of blog writers he hires in half.
And those 3 just basically manage the work of 6 because their jobs move from manually writing stuff to just basically using AI to create content.
His startup is helping fintechs approve home and car loans.
This was the job that was previously done by an analyst or an underwriter or someone internally within the business that has now become completely automated. So you just double tap it and then sort of drives by itself.
Still in the driver's seat as the machines compete for work.
As the machines compete for work, so there's a lot of competition out there, but like it or not, that's the way things are going, and so just get used to it, that it will be that way. Many times it is frustrating. You call up a call center or other places and you go, press this, press that, press 1 for this. You go towards the end, in the end they say, for more information, please visit our website. So, things like that will happen. There will be frustration out there. Automation is coming on. It has helped many things, even looking at ITO. Many times then you used to spend long hours with a consultant. Now if you crunch in the numbers and things like that, it just works out, what your requirements are and what your repayments might be if you need to go on a plan and things like that. So in one hand, it is good. It is easing a lot of problems. And of course, even for home loans and other things, there are many times when consultants used to sit across the table and talk to people, many loans would get rejected because people didn't have the right gut feeling. Today, if you're good at just crunching numbers on the computer, you've got more chance of getting across, even for visas and many other things like that, because they are online with the AI at the back. So that's the way things are. Well, right now, before we go to our daily India report, let's take a look at what was yesterday all about. So yesterday was the IBC Gold Bullion launch, as we know. Yes, before I forget, today, we're wishing everyone who celebrates Ganesh Chaturthi. Vinayak Chaturthi today is a very auspicious day when the remover of all obstacles, Ganesh, is worshipped. And yesterday was the Tej, which is the festival where ladies fast, and a very special significance to Lord Shiva and Parvati. Very, very famous in Nepal and all parts of India, of course. So that was yesterday, and today is Ganesh Chaturthi. All this is leading into the festive season coming up to Diwali. And on Diwali, traditionally people invest in gold and silver. So taking that in mind and not knowing where to find gold and silver to invest in, a company, IBC Gold Bullion, which is one of the largest families dealing in precious metals such as gold, silver and platinum, yesterday launched a very wonderful initiative of creating gold coins, which could be used as gift, as investment, and together with a big silver coin as well. Both of them have Mata Lakshmi on them. And the PR agency was Multi Connection, whom we have always been working together with, Siba Nandakelwar, and of course the Council General was there as well, and of course I met Usha Damaraja, the councillor for Camden, and she was there as well, and many other dignitaries were there to this very special launch, a VIP launch of the Golden Bullion. This is what the CG had to say at the launch.
But what we witnessed in the last few years is these people-to-people linkages we talk about becoming the bedrock of this relationship. Today, as I see in this room, we have a cross-section of friends from the Indian-Australian community covering all walks of life. I think hardly any field, probably, if I try to recount, we won't be able to say, oh, this is not represented over there. And coupled with that, I see a lot of Australian friends also who are deeply invested in this relationship. Because ties, bilateral linkages, they expand only in the network of our Australian friends and the Indian-Australian community. I still remember Shiba, last year when we were discussing about Diwali. She shared the story with me that appeared in the mainstream media, but look, a year down the line, less than a year down the line, we are really proud and privileged that you are launching a special coin commemorating one of the biggest festivals of India, Diwali. When we talk about Diwali, it's truly an international festival. It transcends all boundaries. And when it comes from a prestigious business house like you, featuring the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi, I think this is a great resonance with all of us. There's a great resonance with our Australian friends also. And since this year, sometimes because we Indians always believe in astrology and constellations, so I think this year constellations are rightly aligned also. One after another, the series of events that have lined in place, I think they augur very well for our relationship. Starting from the signing of the free trade agreement to the comprehensive strategic partnership that we agreed in 2020 to the Quad partnership. If you see, the entire gamut of this relationship has been transformed. And whenever I look into this, I see the imprints of our Indian Australian community over there. And that's really, I would really like to acknowledge the presence of our councillors over here. I think each one of you are important. Certainly, former leader of opposition, Jodi Mekhi is around. I think she is more Indian than many of our Indian Australians over here. It really speaks volumes about this relationship. And once again, when I was talking about Shiba, that really portrayed, the commitment of our community. Because community plays a big role in expanding the economic and business linkages. One thing, we launch a coin, that's a big opportunity also over here. That is a big resonance with all of us, I think, here in this room and the rest of our community over here. And that's where we need to just keep on expanding, building bridges, and I'm sure the future is extremely bright. It has just taken off and sky is the limit. Only last week, we have the Minister of Education over here. Sometimes we Indians tend to forget about your own numbers also. That includes myself also. So Minister was talking about, just guess the number of Indians who are in the 15 to 25 age group. And the numbers are staggering, 250 million. 10 times the population of Australia. So that's the opportunity we are looking at. And that's where I think each one of us here have a greater role to play. Thank you.
And a great speech there by the Consul General. And of course, as he mentioned that key people, the key community leaders, key media people were all present in that room. And Brisbane Indian Times and Australian Indian Radio was fortunate to be invited to be there, to be present at that such a wonderful occasion. So because we have very close ties with most of the media outlets and media agencies, and not only that, but also very close ties with the community there. Even in Sydney, most of the community organizations, we maintain that close ties and close relationship. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches out to Pakistan to offer humanitarian assistance to a flood-affected neighbour.
India's neighbour Pakistan has suffered from huge devastation due to floods. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on August 29th said that he was saddened to see the devastation and hoped for an early restoration of normalcy. Modi tweeted, quote, "Saddened to see the devastation caused by the floods in Pakistan. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, the injured and all those affected by this natural calamity and hope for an early restoration of normalcy." End quote. Reports suggest that discussions are underway at the highest levels on the possibility of extending humanitarian assistance from India to Pakistan. If the assistance is approved, it will be the first time since the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government came to power in 2014 that India will be extending aid to Pakistan on account of a natural disaster. Under the then UPA regime, India extended assistance to Pakistan for the floods in 2010 and for the earthquake in 2005. According to the latest data, the floods have claimed over 1,100 lives in Pakistan so far.
India has banned the import of 780 defence items and is pushing for self-reliance in the defence manufacturing sector.
India on August 28th banned the import of 780 subsystems and components for the defence public sector undertakings to speed up self-reliance in the defence manufacturing sector. This is the third list in the last 2 years. The list subsystems are used in the manufacturing of weapons and allied equipment, and their production in India will also positively help the economy. In addition, it will help harness the design capabilities of the domestic defence industry and position India as a design leader in these technologies. India has also set specific timelines for the import ban of the items, spanning a period from December 2023 to December 2028. The latest list is in continuation of the two PILs that was published in December 2021 and March 2022. These lists contain 2,500 items that are already indigenized and 458 items which will be indigenized within the given timelines.
Delhi State Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal undertakes a random test of majority on the floor of the Delhi Assembly to prove the failure of BJP's Operation Lotus.
Delhi Chief Minister and AAP Party convener Arvind Kejriwal tabled a motion for a vote of confidence on August 30th in the State Assembly. The AAP Party has been claiming that the BJP was trying to topple the Aam Aadmi Party government in the national capital. Kejriwal also alleged that the BJP had targeted 40 AAP MLAs and offered 20 crores to each of them to switch sides, though he could not furnish any proof. BJP leaders allege that Kejriwal has been making claims about alleged attempts to poach AAP MLAs since his party contested the Delhi Assembly elections in 2013. The AAP has 62 MLAs in the 70-member Delhi Assembly, while the BJP has 8. AAP has accused the BJP of plotting an Operation Lotus to bring down its government on the pattern of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Karnataka states. The vote of confidence was proposed by Arvind Kejriwal to prove that there was no defection in his party.
The Indian Meteorological Department predicts heavy rains to continue over the Indian state of Assam, Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh this week.
Very heavy rains are expected to lash the northeast Indian states this week as cloudy skies will herald severe downpours similar to those that helped drop large amounts of precipitation over the sister states last weekend. According to the India Meteorological Department, a cyclonic circulation that lies near Jharkhand state as well as the monsoon trough's proximity to the Himalayan foothills will help dump vast amounts of rain over northeast India this week. Widespread or moderate rains accompanied by thunderstorms and lightning are expected to lash the states of Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura on September 1st and 2nd and over Arunachal Pradesh, Assam and Meghalaya states from August 30th to September 2nd. Meanwhile, landslides were reported in the Idukki district of the South Indian state of Kerala due to heavy rains that continue to pound many hilly areas of the state. The state has been put on high alert as another spell of monsoon rains pounded many areas of central Kerala. Some of the areas in the Idukki, Pathanamthitta and Kottayam districts received more than 15 centimeters of rain in the last 24 hours and it is expected to continue for 4 more days.
Jio hopes to roll out 5G telecom services in major Indian cosmopolitan cities by Diwali 2022.
Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries Limited announced that Jio 5G services will be rolled out in India across Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata metros by end of October this year. Jio plans to roll out full pan-India coverage by December 2023. The announcement was made by Chairman Mukesh Ambani at Jio's 45th annual general meeting. Named Jio True 5G, it will be expanded to other cities and towns in phases rapidly to cover the entire India in 18 months by December 2023. Jio claims the 5G rollout plan to be the fastest in the world. Unlike other operators, Jio's 5G network will be standalone with zero dependencies on 4G network. Jio will offer standalone 5G with carrier aggregation technology. The standalone 5G will help Jio deliver new and powerful services like low latency, massive machine-to-machine communication, 5G voice, edge computing, network slicing and metaverse. Ambani said, quote, Jio has indigenously developed an end-to-end 5G stack which is fully cloud-native, software-defined, digitally managed with support for even advanced features like quantum security. Already deployed this made-in-India 5G stack in the Jio 5G network with sufficient capacity to serve hundreds of millions of users right from day one, end quote. Jio, under its Made in India 5G collaboration, has joined hands with Meta for immersive technology and with Intel to build cloud-scale data centers and 5G edge locations. Jio also announced its partnerships with leading global network technology providers like Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung and Cisco. Jio also forged a collaboration with Qualcomm to develop 5G solutions for India.
Indian billionaire Gautam Dhani is now the world's third richest man.
Founder of Adani Group of India, Gautam Dhani is now the third richest person in the world. With a net worth of $137 billion, the 60-year-old business tycoon trails Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos on the coveted list by Bloomberg Billionaires data. While Tesla chief Elon Musk has a net worth of $251 billion, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has a total worth of $153 billion. Gautam Dhani surpassed Bernard Arnault, the co-founder of Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, commonly known as LVMH, a world leader in luxury fashion. This is the first time that an Asian has made it to the list of the top 3 wealthiest people in the world. Indian tycoon Mukesh Ambani and China-based Alibaba Group Jack Ma, other rich Asians have never climbed this high. Gautam Dhani is the co-founder of the Adani Group, which is the largest port operator in India. The group is also said to be the largest coal trader in the country. Revenue of $5.3 billion was reported by Adani Enterprises in the year to March 31, 2021.
Bollywood stars Yami Gautam and Sunny Kaushal come together for the first time in the upcoming thriller film Chor Nikal Ke Bhaga.
Bollywood actor Yami Gautam will soon be seen back on the OTT as she shared a glimpse of her upcoming thriller film Chor Nikal Ke Bhaga on August 29th. Taking to Instagram, the Uri actor shared a video which she captioned, "Expect a red alert, #Chor Nikal Ke Bhaga coming soon only on Netflix." Yami shared some glimpses from behind the lens of the film, which also features actor Sunny Kaushal. Along with the making video, Yami also dropped a string of still looks from...
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment. Don't forget that at 10 a.m. we have the weekly real estate with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. Until then, it's goodbye from us. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the functions and events taking place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all. Until the next segment, 10 a.m., we'll have the weekly real estate update with Usha Chandra. Until then, it's goodbye from us.